Welcome, y'all. We are so excited to be back with part 2 with Jones Laughlin in our series on self-care. I hope many of you were with us last week or had an opportunity, or 2 weeks ago, or had an opportunity to watch his session online. If not, it's still available at 4hmilitarypartners.org. I'm Jenny Jordan. I'm your Navy 4-H Youth Program Specialist from NC State University. I'm very happy to be here on behalf of our SIFAR project and professional development technical assistance team. So today we have with us a very special friend of 4-H. He's not only a wonderful speaker and writer, but also one of us. He is a 4-H parent and a proud part of the North Carolina 4-H program. So without further chatter from me, I'd like to introduce to you Jones. Take it away.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. What a pleasure to be with all of you again. I know some of you are coming on new for the first time, and so I don't want to assume that you've been with us the whole time, but really have enjoyed this series. It's near and dear to my heart because I really appreciate all the work that you do in taking care of others, and so it's really neat for me to be able to offer some guidelines on taking care of you so you can take care of others. Last time, maybe if you won and didn't get your item, we just had a little communications glitch there, and so we'll be getting those email addresses, and I'll be sending you some Kindle versions of some of my favorite books. And the great part is, you say, Jones, I don't like the book you sent me. The great thing about a Kindle gift certificate is that you can exchange that for Amazon dollars. So if you don't want the book, get something for yourself, something else that would be of value to you. But we'll be doing that, and so Jenny will be capturing those names as we go through. In that way. As we get started, we will have some polling questions to kind of get us thinking. So I invite you to participate in those to kind of get our minds around what our topic's going to be today and the subject matter. So let me get the right slide up just to remind me. By the way, I am, so this sounds like a endorsement. It's not, but I'm using Canva today. That's what I created these slides with. I'm always looking to improve and do some things differently. And so one of the things I know I need to do is spice up my slides a little bit, make them a little more engaging and interactive. And so with that, then, I wanted you to be able to see those. Okay, I'm getting a message that you're not seeing my screen, although my screen seems to be showing. Let me try it again and see. Apologize for those of you who are not seeing it. Let me try again. Okay, you should see a screen that says polling questions on it. If you can, yep, okay, here I'm saying yes, very good. All right, so I'm getting my yeses on that. Thank you. Okay, somebody said it's just them. Okay, yeah, technology's all over the place, we understand. But let's kind of find out where we're at. By the way, notice that structure I'm using there to bring myself back. Again, I was joking about Canva, but it's a tool that I'm learning to use. So as we talk about technology and learning new things, that's a new one in my world right now. So if you see the slides and things look a little different than if you've seen some of my other presentations, that's why, because I want to continue to improve what I'm doing. All right, let's get on to these polling questions. All right, so here's our first polling question of the day. And it is, the lines between my work and personal life are more blurred than ever. How strongly do you agree or disagree with that statement? The lines between my work and personal life are more blurred than ever. My goal is always we get about 90% participation if we could. If not, then certainly understand. Give you, looks like we're at about 74% right now. And 77, we're getting close. We're going to call it probably at about 45 seconds. Looks like we're leveling off. Oh, wait a minute. We're at 81% there. Thank you. The lines between my work and personal life are more blurred than ever. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say that's going to be everybody. I'm going to end the polling and share the results. Yeah. 43% of you said, you're right, Jones. They are more blurred than ever. And, 18% of you said you agree. 27% said, no, I disagree. I can keep them separate. And so I think that's a key today. And you're going to hear me talk more about that in just a moment is, how much do you notice that you are letting those lines blur, and is that impacting you in some way personally, because you're not separating the time? And we'll get to that more in just a moment. So that was our first question for today. So let's move to the second one for today to kind of see where you're at. What do you neglect in your personal life? Now we're getting serious, right? What do you neglect in your personal life? Remember, all these answers are anonymous. No one will know. But go ahead and give your thoughts there. What do you neglect in your personal life? You can select as many as are true. What do you neglect in your personal life? Okay, we're at about 78% responding. Now we're at 83%. We'll give it to about 45 seconds and then we will call it. Okay, I'm going to end the polling, share the results. Oh, yes. Thank you for your honesty. 71% of you said you neglect exercise. Wow. Or not, yeah, well, 70%, 71% of the respondents. I'll get that right in a moment. Second one was 45% said the healthy eating. Creating a mentally healthy environment, 29%, and nurturing relationship and conversations is 29% as well. Why do I share that? Or why do I give that polling question? It's because I believe that the same things we neglect at work that would help us personally, we neglect in our personal lives. 71% of the respondents said exercise. My hunch, now it's only a hunch, but my hunch is you probably don't do a lot of exercise at work either, unless you are a fitness instructor as part of your role, or you're working with students or members in a certain way that causes you to have to be active. Because we tend, I heard someone say one time, how we do anything is how we do everything. And if we're not taking care of ourselves in our personal time in the ways that are important, things that you see on the screen, we're probably not doing it at work either. It's just the way that things work. So think about your opportunity today is what your improvement is probably going to be around the same things that would help you when you're not at work as it relates to things today. So that's our second question. And so let's go to the third one there. All right, your third one is, let me launch that poll. Here's your third question. Now, it's a tough one. And be honest, I am more productive and effective employee when I prioritize self-care. Okay. And you're like, Jones, come on. Did you really have to put this question up there? The answer is yes. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. I didn't say the answer is yes. You get my point. I'm saying my answer to why I had to put the question up there is yes. We're about 73%. Okay. And we're about 80%. We'll let it go for another moment. And I think I'm going to end the polling. I think oh, there we go. Thank you, Jenny. So here it is. I am more productive and effective employee when I prioritize self-care. 90% of you said yes, yes. And I think that's the answer, is that if it's that important, if it'll make us more effective as an employee, then chances are then we're going to be more effective in that role if we're taking care of ourselves. And so the question becomes then, as I stop sharing results, very simply, and this is one of your first book opportunities for today, I'd love for you to type into the chat for me, what are some of the reasons you think that we don't do a better job of self-care when we're at work, whether work is working from home or working in a physical workspace? What are some of the reasons that you don't? And we've already had somebody type in, no stairs to climb. Yeah, response, feel like you don't have enough time. Feel guilty. Yeah. Jeannie, if you'll grab maybe the 7th and 10th responses on this one. Mission prioritization, putting others first, too many tasks due right away, the folks are going to get everything complete on the to-do list. I mean, we've seen all kinds of answers here. Common one that we're seeing, putting others first. There we go, selfless. Brenda Allen, zoom to zoom to zoom to zoom to zoom. Yeah. And what's amazing to me is that, as we're going to see today, and as we talked about last time, I asked you the question, a polling question in the last session, for those of you who were part of it. I said, how long does self-care take? How long is a meaningful self-care activity? And as we went through and looked at those, we saw that, you can do some great self-care activities in 5 minutes or less. You can do some in 1 minute or less. I mean, let's be honest, the breathing exercise. I mean, if nothing else, if you simply just inhale to the count of 4, hold it to the count of 4, and release it to the count of 4, that's incredibly helpful to you. It helps you to focus. It helps increase the oxygen levels in your blood. It helps you to just be more present in the moment. It doesn't take a long time for us to be involved in self-care, but we just say, well, no, I don't have 30 seconds, or I don't have a minute. Really? Yeah, we do, because we're spending it doing other things during the day that maybe aren't as productive or as helpful in that way. So let me get us started with a couple quotes to kind of on this subject. I really like this quote to kind of get us started. The idea that you can beat yourself up during the work week and recover in a flurry of wellness activities over the weekend is an all too common myth. Yes, because the weekends sometimes are full of activity and we don't get the opportunity to recover. I would say the idea you can beat yourself up during the workday and recover in a flurry of wellness activities in the evening is an all too common myth, because there is just so much happening, so much swirling around us, that if we don't make it a priority to happen during the day, it's probably not going to happen in the evening either. And so I think that's where I start today, is that we've got to come up with some ways to implement more self-care, more wellness activities into our workday, because what was it? 90% of you said, yeah, I'd be more productive and effective as an employee. So the other quote to kind of think about, and by the way, you will be getting a PDF of this PowerPoint after the session is over. Jeannie will be sending that out to all of you. So for those of you who say, oh, that's a great quote, I'd like to have it, then either screenshot it or just wait for your PDF to arrive. But this one's a longer quote, so it takes a little more, thought for just a moment. But very simply, at the heart of self-care is your relationship and connection to self. As part of your job, it means that you're attuned to and understand what you need to be your most constructive, effective, and authentic self. Wow. If every day you showed up at work being your most constructive, effective, and authentic self, think about what a difference that would make in the work you would get done, how you would feel when the day is over. I mean, it would have a tremendous impact if we made self-care a higher priority while we're at work. Because we all know what happens when we begin to lose sight of taking care of ourselves, and we get, we just start going from task to task, or Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, and we just don't think about how we're feeling and what's going on inside our head, and how we're processing information, or how our bodies are trying to give us information and say, hey, pay attention, you're stressed out right now. We just say, oh, no, I'm fine, I'm going to keep working. We're not delivering our best work because we're not taking care of ourselves. So the strategies today that I want to offer you, the first one, it's going to sound kind of odd. It says, have a routine that shifts you in and out of work mode. I know some of you are continuing to work from home, and especially if you're working from home, or even part-time working from home, and then you're sometime in the physical workspace. Working from home, it presents one of the greatest challenges for us mentally, because work is always there. At the same time, home is always there. And so our minds are always trying to decide, are we in work mode, or are we in home mode? Is this time for me to relax, or is this time for me to get some stuff done? And I think it's really important that we come up with a process or a way that we shift ourselves in and out of work mode. Why is it a wellness or a self-care activity? Because it helps you to go, okay, that's the mode that I'm in right now. One of the things that I taught people very early on in the pandemic last year to do was, they were saying, Jones, I used to have this commute time. I get up in the morning, I would head out the door to my workspace, and that was my transition time to be at work. So by the time I got there, I'm like, yeah, I'm at work. And then at the end of the day, I got in my vehicle and I drove back home. And so I had that transition time to when I walk in the door, I went, I'm home. And so we don't have that now for many of us to actually have that shift in and out of work mode. And so if you're working from home, a couple of things I suggest to you. Number one is that, walk out your door. Now, I know that sounds bizarre, but, in the morning when you get ready to initiate work activities, when you're going to be working there for a while, don't feel crazy about walking out your door. And I know if you're in Bismarck, North Dakota, and it's 0, you're not going to be out there long, but, just walk out the door. I'm headed to work. Turn around, come back, shut the door, walk in, get started on work. When you're finished with work for a period of time, stand up. I'm finished with work for today until after lunch or for a while. But notice how you're just building that in, and it alerts your mind that, okay, we're going to do something else now. But if you're one of those individuals who is working from a workspace there at home, and you're working on something work related, and then you jump into something that's maybe, non-work related, maybe you're checking out some things on social media or doing something else, and then you're back into work. I mean, you're constantly switching back and forth, and it's really hard for your mind to process that. And it also makes you less effective in both because you're kind of still in both places. So I think it's really critical for you to have a routine that shifts you in and out of work mode. Same is true if you're in a physical workspace. I think it's important for you to create some type of routine that reminds you that, okay, I'm not working right now. That's why having lunch away from your, desk or cubicle or workspace is so important. You need to remind yourself that you're out of work mode and now you're in self mode or personal mode, if you will. And so, that's the key there. Now, I've been away from the chat for a while, so I want to jump over there because I know there's all these great comments there. And, somebody, I think Brenda was talking about, or I see Brenda, you've commented about the door. You don't have to go outside, just go through a doorway. Yeah, that's critical because doorways have a way of resetting ourselves. If you've ever went through a doorway and you went, oh, I don't remember where I left my keys. That's not a sign of cognitive decline necessarily. It's because when you go through the door, your mind resets. And then especially if you go through the door and say, I'm headed to work. I mean, literally talk to yourself if you need to. I'm headed to work. And then go into that workspace and get started with work. I'm curious, and you can type some answers in the chat. In fact, yeah, I'll throw away. Not throw away. I'll throw out one book on this one. What are some of the rest of you do that help you to shift in and out of work mode? Because there's some other things I could suggest, but I'd love to hear what you do. What do you do to help shift yourself in and out of work mode so you're not kind of caught in that quagmire between the two? Okay, put on work clothes. Yep. Shut your laptop. Make some tea or coffee. Yep. Music. Yeah. I love these answers I'm seeing. Jenny, let's give the 11th person who responds a book. Pack up my items and put them away. Yeah, it's great. Meditate, like that. Having a normal routine. Leave the office and go to family room. Yeah, if you can shut a door or close it off. Oh, take off my shoes. I love it. My wife would give you a hug. My wife loves to take off her shoes anytime she can. Work with my kids. Sleep. Yeah, exactly. Great answers that I'm seeing. Talk with my family about their day. Yeah, that reminds you you're out of work mode. Go sit outside for a few minutes. Thank you, Candy. I hope you're in a part of the world where it's conducive to do that. Yeah, go watch a TV show, stretch. I love these answers. And you're saying, wait a minute, Jones, are you suggesting that we do these things all throughout the day? No. I mean, if you're going to go watch some TV for a couple hours, you're probably not going to do that, quote, during the workday, unless you logged on early and you've worked a lot. You say, you know what? I need a break right now. Because if I could just go get a few laughs for, watching an episode of something for a few minutes, then I would come back so refreshed. That's okay if you're getting the work done. Patricia says she takes her hair down. I tend to do that as well. It helps me. So, all right. So that was our first idea. Have a routine that shifts you in and out of work mode, I think is important. Our second idea for the day is creating a positive workspace. Creating a positive workspace. How is this self-care? Because it allows you to be able to focus, and you don't have to push as hard. You don't have to try and avoid distractions. That's the key, is that if any of you have followed my work and you've been a part of some of my work through extension or in those areas, I talk a lot about this whole idea of willpower and of the thing is, don't try to put yourself in a situation where you got to, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm not going to hear that. I'm not going to see that. Yes, you are. You're going to be that kind of person that does that because that's the way our minds are wired. It's always looking for new information. And a better approach is, to remove things from that environment so they can't even be a temptation. I give the example, if someone were to, put a plate of chocolate chip cookies in front of you and say, now, I'm going to sit those there. Don't eat them. And you go, yeah, I don't want them. I don't need them. I'm trying to, do better about my eating. But then you smell them and you glance over and you see them. I mean, you're wearing yourself down. What's a better solution? Yeah. Move it, move those cookies out of the room. That's always a better way to do that. So let's talk about how we create that positive workspace that makes it conducive to do work and doesn't wear us down as much. All right, here's what I want to do. In the chat, I would like for somebody to look around, just look around your workspace, wherever you're working at right now, look around your workspace, and I want you to type into the chat, what's something that you see that sometimes distracts you from getting your work done? What's something you see? What's something you see? Okay, messy desk, clutter. Yeah, thank you. The street, phone, my cat. Yeah. Food spills. Thank you, Vanessa, for your honesty. We got those at our house too. Lots of notebooks. And Anna, you see those lots of notebooks. They may be, looking at it going, oh, there's so much work to be done there. And the reason I wanted you to do that is because I would imagine that during the day, when you're trying to focus on work, trying to get stuff done, you glance up and you go, yeah, that is a mess. Or, yeah. Ooh, I forgot I got to work on all that after I get done with this. Well, you see what that does is it wears you down in lots of ways. And so I think, as you perform a workspace audit after our session today, just ask yourself, what do I see that's distracting to me? And do I have the ability to change it? Do I have the ability to make it less distracting to me? Could I shift my workspace? Could I, move somewhere else? Could I just move that item out of the way? It's just so critical that we give our minds a fresh place to work and not one that's always caught up with distractions and it wears us down so much. Second one is, what do you hear? What do you hear? Somebody talked about that my kid's running around. Somebody, if they've got a cat, they probably heard the cat meowing or purring or those things. You might hear coworkers. Yeah. You've got all these things, and birds singing outside. Now that's a positive, I think. Somebody said their dog is snoring. I love working with you folks. Appreciate your honesty. But in a dog snoring, it would probably make me say, I'd like to take a nap. sounds are important. Sounds trigger us and trigger our minds to go places and to think about things. And if you've got a workspace where you're constantly hearing sounds as you're going, oh yeah, I can hear that. Oh yeah, I'm paying attention to that. That's taking you out of the moment. It's causing you not to feel as focused on the things that you should be. And so, the idea here is that how do I minimize those sounds? And of course, there's a million and one ways to do that. You can use earbuds, you can put in headphones, you can remove the sound distraction that's from you. And I'm saying all this because if you can create an environment that makes you feel like getting work done, it's not as much stress on you. That's the self-care piece of this. And finally, the smell side of things. Now you're going, okay, come on, Jones. I kind of get where you're going with this, but really, okay. Yeah, I think it's true. Smell is the strongest emotional connection any of us have to a place or to an event. Or just it takes us to somewhere. And so if you have a work environment where the smells are not refreshing and it's not conducive to you really thinking positively, then change it. I mean, it's too easy not to, if it's within your control. Now you can't, if it's going to bother the person who works around you, then maybe that's not going to happen. But if you're in a space where you need something to help you to, feel more vibrant and getting your work done, then do it. Go buy some air fresheners from the store. Get a wax burner that you plug in or something. I still use, and I've been using it for years, I still use a diffuser. Yes, you don't take away my man card. I use a diffuser because it's amazing how if I put in some certain scents in there, see, I guess my favorite these days is lavender and there's something called 3 Arabian Nights, or I can't remember what it is, but anyway, but I can put that in. And then when I really need to focus, I'm smelling it and I'm going, yeah, that encourages me to think. In fact, when I really want to get a lot of work done, I make sure that diffuser's going. My point is that if you can create a workspace that's conducive to you getting work done, you're reducing your stress and it's helping you to be able to focus and get the right work done. Love all the answers I'm seeing pop in about things that you do and the smells that you create. So creating the productive workspace. Your homework out of this, and of course, is do that audit after we're done today. See what it is that you could change that would cause you to be able to focus more effectively in your role. So that's our second one. As we get to preparation for our third one, it's kind of some of the things you've already been doing in the chat, but you can add to it a little bit more in your breakout rooms. In just a few moments, we're going to send you to breakout rooms, and you're simply going to answer this question or finish this statement. Describe the physical work environment that helps you to be at your best. Now, I gave you some indicators there about things that you see, things that you hear, things that you smell. You take it to the next level. Okay. I want you to talk about that because you're going to give ideas to somebody who's in that breakout room with you. And they go, oh yeah, I could do that. I could create that type of work environment so that I could be at my best. And that's what we're going to be doing. Now, if you haven't participated in a breakout room before, in just a moment, Jenny will send you an invitation. It'll say, hey, go to room 6 or room 7, those kind of things. And then you will be there for, Jenny, I'm assuming we've got 5, 6 people in each room?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So we're gonna put you there about, let's do 7 minutes. Well, you know what? Let's do 8 minutes. I think probably we're going to need that because this is not just a one answer question. But don't feel like don't talk a long time. Physical work environment that helps me to be at my best is if, and then you can simply give 1 or 2 answers very quickly and then move on to the next person. So we're going to take 8 minutes with this one, Jenny, because a little longer question, and then you will be brought back. Jenny will put in. You'll get a notification, I think, at 1 minute that will tell you, hey, you've got 1 minute. So if you've not gotten through everybody by that point, you need to finish up and so you can get everybody the opportunity to participate before you come back. So with that, Jenny, I'll let you send them to their breakout rooms and we'll see all of you back in about, well, it looks like we've got everybody back. How about, and Jenny, we'll do this in just a moment, I'll tell you which once they start typing in. Let's I'd love to hear from a couple of you. What's an answer you heard that was different, was kind of unusual about how, the physical work environment that helps them to be at their best? What are some of the things that you came up with? Now, Fort Buchanan saying Krispy Kreme. I'm assuming that's what you have at your desk. Organized files. There we go. Thank you, Troy. Sunshine. Yeah, light is so important. Yeah, good chair. Jenny, let's take the sixth person to respond on this one. Clean environment, window. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I find if I just clean my windows, you're right, the window that I can see outside my home office, noise canceling headphones. Yeah, thank you, Gary. Yeah, moving around, being able to shift and go other places. Helps as well. So thank you for those answers. I just think that's really important about creating the right kind of self-care at work. Now, the third one, and please don't let this picture scar you for life, but address the inner critic. Now you're thinking, Jones, what in the world does this have to do with self-care? I think it's got everything to do with self-care, because what's one of the biggest challenges that we face at work? And that is, I've got all this work to do. I mean, somebody even typed in the chat earlier, this ever-growing to-do list that I have. That noise inside our head is so loud. And we've got to figure out ways to calm that down so that we're not as stressed at work and that we can be our best selves. Now, before I go to some of the ideas here of addressing that inner critic, anybody want to take a guess as to what actor this weird looking guy looks like? I didn't even think about it when I threw it into the slide, but anybody know what actor this guy looks like? I want to take a shot at it. You can type it in the chat. What actor does this guy look like? Yes, Charlie Sheen. Yeah. Really does. Now, it's not, of course, but I just thought that was kind of funny. So thanks, Gary, for knowing your trivia. Hugh Jackman, come on now. Hugh Jackman's one of my favorite actors. This doesn't look like Hugh Jackman. I'm sorry. Wow, that's an interesting perspective. You think he looks like Hugh Jackman? So I had to practice my good communication skills there. All right, so here's what we do to address our inner critic. First of all, ask yourself this question when you start feeling that critic start tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Well, you made a bad choice there. You screwed up." Ask yourself this question: did I make the best decision I could with the information I had at the time? That's really important. Did I make the best decision I could with the information I had at the time? That's one question I think you can ask yourself to help kind of calm things down. Secondly, and I love this question, I think I got this from a positivepsychology.com article, but what would I say to a colleague or friend in the same situation? It never ceases to amaze me that people are so much harder on themselves than they would be to someone else in that situation. I mean, if somebody, I just feeling so overloaded. Well, you ought to take better care of yourself. You ought to do this. You ought to take a break every now and then. I mean, that's what they would say, right? To us. And that's what we would say to them, because we know that's what ought to happen. But for some reason, that advice just doesn't land for us. And so, stopping yourself in those moments, what would I say to a colleague or a friend of mine in the same situation? Number one thing, take a break, step away. It was so important. And, that's helpful. Lakaya, I hope I said your name right, Lakaya. I like that. I always tell workers to chill out. Now, that phrase can be taken different ways. Now, I take it positive. Just chill out. You say, take a deep breath. There's some people who might go when you say chill out. I've got too much to do to chill out right now. Well, that's another story. So, all right. The third thing is get time on your boss's calendar to find out how you're doing. Now, that may sound like a weird one to you. I think it's important because one of the things the critic's telling us in our head is that we're not getting the right work done. We're not moving things forward. We're not, getting the work done that we should be doing. And when you start feeling that and start questioning, am I doing the right things? Am I focusing on the right things? If you've got a positive relationship with your boss, the person you report to, find time on the calendar. Just say to them, I want to make sure I'm focused on right things. I want to make sure I'm focused on things that are most important. Here's what I'm working on. Now, your boss may look at you and say, if your name was Jones, Jones, you're doing a fantastic job. What I don't get it. And you say, well, I just want to make sure. I mean, it's helpful for affirmation. It's also helpful for you to have that clarity, because there's always that critic inside of you saying, do more, do more, do more. And so I think we have to silence that critic in whatever ways we can. Candace brought up a good answer in the chat about always remember the why behind what I do, what this is going to give me. Patricia says, I do think scheduling periodic conversation with my program leaders is important, because we're not tied to a specific project programs. It's time for more meaningful conversations. Yeah, absolutely. Because if we're left in isolation, we can start thinking that we're not doing enough, and that we're failing, or we're not being all we should be. And so I think it's important to address that inner critic in those ways. So that's your third idea. The fourth one is recharging your energy at work. Now, notice the difference there. This is recharging your energy at work. This is what's really important. Recharging your energy while you're there. What many of us do, and I've done this before, and I still do it now from time to time, is that I know I'm not at my best, and I'll still continue to work, because I've got, if I could just get through this. I was working on a PowerPoint this morning. I mean, I'm just being totally transparent. I was working on a PowerPoint this morning, and I had not had, I do intermittent fasting. And so it was about, 10:30, and I hadn't had anything to eat since, late yesterday. And I'm sitting there, and I'm ravenous. I mean, I was to the point of almost eating paper. And I'm sitting there trying to work on that PowerPoint and going, okay, what's the idea I want to convey here? What am I trying to do? And at the same time, I hear my stomach. And so I had to go, you know what? It's time to stop for a minute and go grab an apple or eat some almonds or do something. But how often does that happen in other ways? We're tired, we just need to stretch, or we're frustrated about something. And instead of stopping to recharge energy so we can address that situation more effectively, we just keep trying to work. And then we say, I'll relax tonight. And then remember that first quote I gave you today about it's an all too common myth that we're going to throw in a bunch of wellness activities at the end of the week or even in the evening. A great quote about that I read in a book I just recently finished called Think Like a Monk. And it says, if we don't learn from the signal that alerts us to a problem, we'll end up learning from the results of the problem itself, which is far less desirable. Love that quote. And the reason I like that quote is because it just reminds us that when your body is telling you something, when your mind is telling you something, it's a signal that you need to do something else. And if you deny it, then you are going to have a bigger problem. You're going to see the results of the problem, which is far less desirable. When I was doing on-site training, I would talk to people, how do you know you need a break from work? Or how do you know you need a break at work? And one of the best answers was, I get short with my coworkers, or I get snippy with them, or I lose my patience. And I would say to that person, well, what happens when you do that? And they go, well, I usually have to go back and say, I'm sorry. Perfect example. Now, that person could have prevented having to go have that I'm sorry conversation if they would have simply said, oh yeah, I'm getting kind of worn down right now. And then taken care of that by some of the activities or exercise we'll talk about later. But when you don't, then you deal with the consequences of the problem instead of the signal that you got from that. With that in mind, our second breakout room of the day, in fact, our only other one, because we've learned that this is about the right amount to do in our times. I want you to be honest. And this is going to be hopefully a therapeutic type of breakout room for you. But the question is, what's a signal you've avoided when it comes to self-care at work that had negative consequences for you? And I want you to be as simple as, I put a decimal in the wrong place, and I submitted a request that was 10 times what it should have been. Or, I'd been working on something all day. Somebody came in my office, said something to me, and I just flew off the handle at them and went, oops. You know, in other words, you recognized that something was going on, you kept avoiding it. And then when something else happened that had a negative consequence because you didn't pay attention to that signal that your body or your mind was telling you. What's an example of that for you? Again, keep it short because we want to be able to keep things on time today. We're going to be finishing up around by 2:15 probably, but just to let you know. And then yes, Consuelo, I hope I said your name right, Consuelo. I love the HALT acronym. Never allow yourself to get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Yeah, I heard that one the other week. So wonderful for sharing that one. So with that, Jenny, let's get them to their rooms. While you're getting everybody's getting back into the room, I'm curious if anybody would like to type an answer, or maybe something that happened to you in very short terms about something that signal you didn't pay attention to. You don't have to tell us what the consequence was, but something you didn't pay attention to that caused you some problems later. You're welcome to type that into the chat as we're getting everybody back in. Okay, so let me get to there we go. Yeah, the gut feel. Oh, I like that, Susan. The gut feeling that the situation will escalate if you don't provide more information. That's good. That's good. Yeah, restroom break. Yeah, Kathy, I'm with you on that. As I'm getting older, I'm finding that. Yeah, didn't pay attention. Isn't it amazing? Didn't pay attention to your sugar levels, something that's so, basic, but you didn't do that. So very good. Well, thank you for your participation. Let's continue on with our session today. And as we talk about recharging our energy at work, we're going to start with emotional energy. We think about physical energy, but let's start with emotional energy. And I like this quote, feelings are much like waves. We can't stop them from coming. We can choose which one to surf. Just paying attention to that emotional energy and what it's telling us, the signal that it's giving us. And what can we do to recharge our emotional energy? That's what we're focusing on here. By the way, for those of you, I know some of you had to leave at the top of the hour. Yes, we will be sending you a PDF of these slides after the presentation is over. So if you need to step away, we certainly understand. All right, so emotional energy. What can you do? Well, first of all, breathing, meditation, but I'm telling you, as I have gotten deeper into this idea of small things that I can do to improve how I take care of myself, my personal wellness, I have come to appreciate breathing more than anything else. And I have to thank my wearable tech for helping me with that, because it has that default setting or whatever it notices when you're breathing shallow. I don't know how it works. It's all magic to me. But at any rate, it'll remind me to breathe every now and then. And when it would do that, I'm like, I am breathing. But then I'd go, but I do feel like I've been taking some short breaths, because that's what happens when we get stressed out. Breathing is the number one way to increase your emotional energy, to really just bring yourself back into the present and not be so stressed out. Music is another way. We talked about music earlier, the positive music is helpful. Coloring or drawing, doodling helps you to build back emotional energy. And of course, laughing. Somebody mentioned earlier, laughing with your coworkers. Another strategy is, just finding a picture on your phone that gives you positive emotional energy, just kind of flipping through them and seeing them. That's something you can do to increase your emotional energy. Think about how little time all of those take, and compare that to, when I ask the question, why don't we do a better job of self-care at work? Is, well, I've got this big to-do list. I've got all these other things going on. We're not talking about things that take a tremendous amount of time. The second one is mental energy. How do we increase our mental energy? And I think one of the first ways to do that is to think about, what triggers your stress. Beginning to get some answers there. What's draining for you at work? And what caused you to go angry or to get upset quickly? I think asking yourself that question or those questions helps you to begin to decide what ought to be different about your day, and what could you, structure differently so that you could be, prepared for the mental drain that it's going to be. When I say what's draining for you at work, one of the keys is if you've got something you know it's going to be draining, line that up with something else that's going to be, you know, affirming to you, that's going to be positive to you. If someone is spending all morning on draining activities, is any wonder by lunchtime they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go home. I just want to stop. You know, it's important to, if we can, to structure our day so that we do some things that, yes, are going to drain us mentally, but things that will help us to be mentally engaged. Okay, how do we increase it? I mentioned already, create a better flow for your day. If you find that you're tackling the things that drain you the most first thing in the morning, maybe it's time for you to start on something that would actually be nourishing to you mentally first. You know, if you need to, you know, step away for a moment, or when you're taking that break, things like crossword puzzles are helpful because they get us mentally stimulated in some way. I know a lot of times I'm mentally wiped at lunch because I worked on my deep work that morning. It's been interesting being at home with my wife and daughter in that we started playing bananagrams at lunch. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm like, wow, after looking and searching and doing those things, it's amazing how when I come back to work, I am much more mentally charged than I would have been if I'd just eaten and come back. You know, TED Talks are a good way. Looking out a window is huge, especially because it causes you to see things differently. It causes you to be able to look for things. In fact, I challenge myself when I look out the window that I've been looking out since 2003 is to see if I can see something I've never seen before. And so it might be a particular type of tree. It might be the color of siding on a house, or where something's at on a house, or, you know, what animals are in the yard. Doing something I find is helpful. Caitlin gives a good one. I keep my latest crochet project with me and crochet a couple rows as a mental break during the day or after a long meeting. Yes, Caitlin, thank you. Jenny, send that person a book. I love that answer. All right. Third one is physical energy. And this one's the one that's most obvious when we think about improving our energy or recharging at work. And if you want to read a great book about how important it is as far as timing during your day and when you do certain things or don't do certain things, the book When that you see on the screen is absolutely phenomenal. It's a great read about the whole concept of perfect timing. And in the book, he talks about how, you know, most of us follow a pattern that you see in the middle of the screen of peak, trough, and rebound. In other words, we start our day with lots of physical energy, and then we typically, you know, at lunch, we kind of trough out a little bit. It gets kind of low, and then we rebound some in the afternoon. Then there's about 25% of the population, according to research, that start their day more in recovery mode. They, you know, they're people, I'm not a morning person. And then even maybe up till lunch, sometimes they're not as productive as they, you know, as their counterparts who are early risers like me. But then the afternoon, the evening, they hit their stride, they hit their peak of, you know, energy to be able to get work done. I think it's important that you begin to think about, how could you structure your day, or is there a way for you to structure your day so that you are taking advantage of your body's own natural rhythms, your own natural physical energy to be able to get stuff done? Because if you are low on physical energy, but yet you're trying to tackle something that takes a lot of mental energy, it's amazing how much harder it is to get it done if you don't have that physical energy. So something to think about when it comes to physical energy. A couple other things: exercise. For those of you who said, I don't have time to do self-care at work, okay, look at this list. Stretching. Okay, I just did that one. That didn't take very long. Arm circles. Okay, I did that one. Half squats. You stand up and then you put your hands together, you know, and you get in that position just like you're going to stand, you know, standing with your feet at shoulders width apart, and then you just simply go down a couple times. Okay, that's exercise. And if that's too much for you, if you say, I don't have time for that, do leg stretches. Many of us at our desk or in our workspaces, we fold our legs back underneath, you know, our bodies a little bit. You know, it's just natural. I mean, I do that. If you'll just simply take and stretch your leg out, you know, stretch it all the way, it's amazing how that gets some blood flowing. So for all those of you who are on the session today and you're saying, I don't have time, Yes, you do. You have time, even if you think you didn't, but it's not requiring a lot of time for you to get those done. I thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, you've mentioned about deep breaths and neck rotations. Yeah, there's just so many things we can do to renew and recharge our energy, but we just get so involved in the work, we forget to do it. Eating, you see the eating in the last column there, healthy snacks. Remember the question I asked you about? I said, what do you personally neglect? And many of you said exercise, some of you said eating. What are those things you can do to help improve your physical energy? Healthy snacks. I mean, I use intermittent fasting because that keeps me going more in the morning than if my stomach is full. Lunch away from your work area. You say, how does that give you physical energy? It's because you're moving away and you're thinking about other things, and mental energy and physical energy are so closely connected in that way. I see some great answers popping into the chat over here. Troy, I like your answer, sitting up and not slouching in my chair. Yeah, just that shifting of your body can make such a difference in that way. So thank you for those ideas. Finally, be your social self. Okay, not be yourself, be your social self. Some of you, I know I've had conversations with lots of folks who have really, it's been tough during this time when you can't interact with people, and you're all people that I'm talking to today. And so I think it's important to find ways to be your social self. Who is that you want to be, and not just say, well, because of COVID or because I'm working remotely. I think it's important for you to say, I like having a certain level of interaction in my day with other people. And how can I create that in whatever environment I have? Because that will help with self-care, because you're being authentic. How do you be your social self? I think, first of all, you got to, figure out some boundaries. Boundaries is on the other side of things, that if you're getting so much interaction that you're like, hey, I need some time to focus on some of these other tasks, and I need to have an hour a day where I'm not available for Zoom meetings, or 2 hours a day, or something in that way. Schedule time with coworkers just to chat. You used to do that, pre-COVID, and even now, if you're in the physical workspace, it's just sometimes a little more. We're a little more careful about that. But schedule, hey, I just want to get together and I want to chat, and set a timer, if you need to, so that you don't go too long with it. But it's what makes you you. The big idea here, and you see on the right side of the screen, is what's the frequency, what's the level of interaction that would be most beneficial to your well-being? It's asking yourself that question and then creating a plan to actually make it happen. What's the frequency of interaction that will be most beneficial to your well-being? That's what we're talking about there. So that's that part of being your social self. With that, I want to begin to tie all this together. If I had to try to sum up our time together today in one sentence, it would be the quote by Laura Brothers on the screen. The things that you wouldn't neglect in your personal life shouldn't be neglected in your work life either. If you think about that question I asked you at the beginning: exercise, eating, time to build that mental, that mental energy, and then also your social interactions. Those 4 things, you wouldn't neglect them in your personal life. If you are neglecting your personal life, you already know the consequences of that. Guess what? It's also impacting you in getting the right work done in the most efficient way possible, and you being your best self. So how can you begin to address those 4 areas in your day, so that when you finish your day, you go, wow, I was productive, I feel fulfilled, and I'm ready now to go even do a better job of self-care in the evening with the activities I'll be engaged in, and I'll be ready to come back tomorrow and do it again. With that, let me bring up one last slide, and this is some of you who've been with me for. I say, Jones, we've seen this before. You're right, but we always have new folks who are joining us. I send out a weekly video with tips and ideas, kind of like some of the things I've shared today. If that'd be of value to you, there's my email. You just send me that and put the subject line weekly. If you are, would like things monthly, I send out a little longer monthly communication. Then you send me an email with monthly, or you can send me an email that says monthly and weekly, and we will sign you up for both of those. You can unsubscribe at any time, but I just offer that because it's another tool, another way for you to continue this journey we've started today about making self-care at work a higher priority. Okay, before I wrap this up, I got a couple more books to give away because I have committed to giving us away a certain number of books or items. So I'm wondering, what's a question you have about the topic today? What's a question you have about the topic today? And so I will give a book to the first person who asks a question related to our topic today. Okay, so this is your opportunity. Troy says, best way to reduce stress at work. Troy, I would go back to that slide where it says mental energy. And then Gary, I'll come to the exercise. So there's my two. Send both of those people books. Okay. Jenny, put that on your list. The reducing stress, that I think is so important is, what are your triggers? What is it that's causing you stress? And is it everything? Because chances are it's probably not. It might be just one type of activity, or it might be the level of work that you're expecting out of yourself that day and it's not manageable. So I would, what is it? Is it the workload? Is it types of activities? And then from there, how do you take a step forward with that? What's a small step you could take for improvement with that particular item? That would be the one that I would suggest to you, is really get specific. What is it that's really stressing me? And then, why does that stress me? And if you need to do the, what was the Toyota thing, 5 whys, go to 5 whys to get to the root of the problem. You say, well, it stresses me out doing these reports. Why does it stress you out to do the reports? Because I've got so many other things going on. Why do I have so many other things going on? Because I'm not good at managing my time. Okay. Then we're close now on what maybe the real problem is. So thank you for that one. Gary, you talked about exercises. Really, the one I'm very conventional. I like to start my day doing several push-ups, and then whenever I'm in the office, if I got a break, then I'm going to do some stretches. I'm going to do your basic stretches where you stretch your arm across. I'm going to stand up and just really almost like getting up in the morning, just do those arm stretches. I'm going to bend over and get as close to my toes as I can. But the key is that I'm doing it in small amounts, so I don't get the resistance from my body going, you're not going to get on the floor and do 25 push-ups. No, I'm going to do 2 wall push-ups, because that's something I can do that will renew my energy. So with that, Jenny, I will stop my formal part of the presentation. I'm certainly here for other questions, comments, those kind of things, but I will let you take the lead at this point.
Well, thank you, Jones. And y'all, wasn't that just fabulous? So let's either on the screen or with your emojis, let's give them a round of applause, because that was just outstanding.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Real quickly,
yes, go ahead.
No, you keep going.
No, I'm just blabbering now, so go ahead.
Side announcement, Gary Corley, if you will direct message me your email address. So I don't want to, yours did not pop up on my list easily. Doesn't mean I can't find it, but if you're still on, you can just DM that right there in the chat to me, and we'll have that as well to give with all of our award winners. So y'all, fabulous day. Fabulous, lots of opportunities to share. This is part 2. Part 3 is in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about, Jones, what's your next topic? What are you going to say?
Yes, and I'm going to weave it into a question from Lolita, because Lolita says, how do you create a positive working environment when negative people are around? And that's what our next session is about, is how do you do self-care in relationships? And so Lolita, wonderful question about that. My initial answer there is that if those people are around, you number one, have to find some positive people, or be more intentional about finding positive people to engage with during the day, so you're not always just feeling drained because you're around those negative people. I think there's also some tactics that you can take to address that, get to the root of it, and find out what is it that's making them negative, and hopefully have a positive influence on them. And we'll talk about some of those things in our next session. So thank you, Lolita, for the question.
Fabulous. Lolita slid us right into that. So on behalf of all of us that are part of the 4-H SciFar Professional Development and Technical Assistance team, we appreciate, Joan, so much your time today. And to all over 70 of y'all that jumped in during this session, we appreciate so much you making time today to begin your self-care journey. We have recorded this. There is a set of PDF of the slides. We'll put all of that on our 4hmilitarypartners.org page that you can access, and we will hopefully see all of you in 2 weeks. Don't forget to share this information with others so that they can join us as well. So from us to you, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Thanks, y'all.